Join us.
They used to call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.
Well, welcome back to the Necro Zoo. I am Bones. And in this one, we're going to add one more figure to my McFarlane DC Multiverse collection. Now this time it is going to be Ultraman from the Crime Syndicate wave. Now this wave will be released throughout the next coming months, one figure at a time. We already know that coming up next we have Superwoman, which looks pretty good. And of course, these characters come from the Crime Syndicate, which is in an alternate universe. A lot of the good guy superheroes are actually villains and dictators and rule their planets with an iron fist. Now, I'm not the biggest Ultraman fan, but he's pretty cool. I mean, I'll always take an alternate evil version of any character, but this one actually looks pretty cool. There are different iterations in the comics of Ultraman. You have some that use certain costumes and different origins, but right now we're here to look at the McFarlane figure. Now he does look pretty doppelganger-ish in his packaging, so let's go ahead and take a closer look at him. But first, he does come with your standard black DC Multiverse stand. Now these are not really needed, but sometimes they come in useful. He also comes with his data file card. On the front, you do have a picture of him in front of Starro. And on the back, you do have some information. I'll go ahead and add this to the collection. Now, as far as accessories, he does come with the Build-A-Figure part for your Starro. This is like the big eye in the center portion. Pretty cool. We'll have to end up seeing how big the actual Starro is, but in either case, it's cool to get a new Starro figure for the collection. And then he also comes with one of these like pods from the actual Starro creature. Now it does have creepy looking eyes, and on the back you do have a mouth with some suckers for suction. Still, we do not know if each one of the figures that comes out will have one of these, that parasites onto the characters and, controls them. But pretty awesome. I will be probably picking up 3 of these, so I'll have an extra one and an extra figure to do custom work on, so that'll be pretty cool. But probably one of the better accessories we picked up from McFarlane. Now let's go ahead and take a closer look at him. Right off the bat, first impressions, he's actually a lot nicer in hand than people have made him out to be, like on reviews. Some people don't like the big fists and the head sculpt, but to me, right now in hand, it's not as bad, but the head sculpt actually looks pretty good. And there's not such a difference between the face color and the neck, which I was pretty afraid of. This one's actually pretty close. Even though he could use with a little bit of touch-up, it's actually not as bad as I thought it was going to be. But all in all, he's a pretty cool looking Ultraman character to add to the collection. Let's go ahead and take a look at the head. Like I said, this is a more youthful looking head sculpt. When you usually see Ultraman in the comics, he looks like he's been through some stuff, he looks more rugged. Not necessarily exactly as Clark Kent Superman, but like a rougher, lived a hard life version of him. But this one's a little bit, not so menacing, but all in all, it actually fits the body pretty well. So that's pretty cool. Now, He does look up extremely well, and this is without even modding the neck hole. He looks, way up. Like if you were to put him in a flight pose, he should work perfectly for that. He can look down. Can look to the right, to the left, and then you can cock his head for some character. Now, another complaint I heard was the way they gave him the red eyes. Yeah, it's not the greatest because that kind of does stick him in the certain evil overlord, looking character, but I'm kind of liking the evilness of it. Really like the hair sculpt. It's like all like swishing around, like if he was in a battle and just like floating in the air. So pretty cool. Being menacing over, his opponents. So it's not the greatest, but I'm not hating the head sculpt. It's really good. Moving down to the chest, you have that awesome Ultraman insignia. Now I love the way it is embossed and sculpted in. It just gives it more of a presence than if it was just painted on the plastic. So really digging that. Now let's go ahead and look at the waist. Now around the waist he does have these like circular pods around like his waist, that these are kind of signature to his character, but he doesn't always have them. Sometimes they show him with like a belt, but I do actually prefer these. They're more like a classic throwback because of course this character is, goes back a long ways in the mythos of DC, but I do like these, silver circular discs. They're just representative of what I think of when I think of Ultraman. Now he does have side to side, all the way around waist rotation. You can scrunch them forward, actually very, very well. You can lean them back, great. And you can twist them to put him in some awesome poses. He also does have a lower waist swivel and an upper chest waist swivel, which allows you to twist them up, get them in some pretty nice range of motion positions. For flight poses and stuff, it just works awesome. Pretty sweet. Let's take a look at the arms. He does have the butterfly shoulder joints. Now you do get front to back a little, but you get an awesome range up and down. Then you do have a bicep swivel, double jointed elbows, and then of course some wrist articulation there on the ball joint. Now I'm kind of fighting that. I think this ball joint should have been flesh colored, but it's not too bad. It looks like a full suit, going up into the wrist. So I'll live with it. And then you'd have to talk about those big fists that McFarlane uses. This is kind of a throwback to the Bizarro and the Infected Superman. Not too bad if you just don't really, notice it. But if you start looking at it, they are kind of big. But of course, you can always look for alternate fist and hands. But all in all, just for a simple Ultraman figure, look for your shelf, he is looking pretty cool. Let's go down to the thighs. Now, you do have that thigh swivel. It's pretty good. Not the best, but you do get some range of motion out of there. You can cock out his leg and then twist his hip for that hip rotation. Now, this is where the trunks part of the figure comes in handy because it does allow for a lot of range of motion without actually losing the silhouette of the character through that, going down through the trunks and into the thighs. It all blends in rather well. It doesn't break up the sculpt. Now he does have double jointed knees. Moving out, he has up and down at the ankle, left to right, rocker, and of course he does have toe articulation. Looking at the legs, they're actually sculpted really nice, and I don't think they're the same as any other Superman that we've received. They're actually a little bit different. They do have some design piping work throughout the suit. Of course, the upper boot cut is different, and one thing I really like is the way they're now using these sculpted out ankle joints. Now, they didn't do the same at the wrist, but I think this is just where this is like halfway there. The ankles are perfect. The wrists need a little bit of work, but they're actually starting to integrate that into all their figures, which is making for an awesome advancement in the technology for these figures and really, really making it a pleasure to collect these. Just looks like a cool silhouette of a foot. Doesn't have that big ball joint. Looks great. Taking a look at the bottom, no markings and no tread. Coming up the back, just slight sculpt work in the design of the suit, but looks pretty good, pretty clean. Now this cape, I think it is mirrored from the Superman 1000, but it's a little bit different. It's a little bit softer rubber, so you could manipulate it, and it has a little bit more flex. So all in all, pretty happy with it. And altogether, this is actually a beautiful figure. I know there's a lot of people that say that this is the worst one, and also I know a lot of people that say this is like one of their favorites. So like always, you can't please everybody. You can do some different modifications if you'd like to, but for putting them up on the shelf in my collection, this is an awesome figure. Now I do have an alternate Red Sun Superman head where I painted the eyes red, and you can pop this one off and pop this on there. And it kind of does match perfectly because this is a more rugged head sculpt, and since I did paint the eyes red, it kind of matches the, menacing factor of the character. So when I do get another one of these, I'll probably be using this head for that body. It just fits a lot more with the character than this one, but I mean, I don't want to have this one in my collection altered. I'm going to have one unaltered, and then I'll have an extra to do custom work on. Now another thing is the fist. You can find different flying fists, hands that actually work with this guy. And actually the hands from the Dark Knight Returns Superman are kind of like grasping, choking hands kind of. And they actually fit here with this figure, but you would have to bore out the hole in these hands and to make them fit onto this peg. But if you look at it, they actually do kind of work with that one, so that might be another option. I'm kind of digging just these fists now that I have it in hand. They just kind of blend themselves in where they're not so, obvious, but they do look good. Now before we go, I do have some comparisons with this guy because I have the old DC Universe Classics. Now they did release a whole pack of the Crime Syndicate that had all the characters in there: Owlman, Johnny Quick, The Ring, and of course Superwoman. And there is actually two versions. I love this, the way that this one has the discs as well around the waist. And there's actually two versions of this guy because there was like a running change, because they have one where the neck is flesh colored, but then there's also an alternate version where he has, I don't know why, but they painted the neck all the way up to his neck. Me, I'm sick like that, and I had to have both versions, but those are pretty much throwbacks to the old DC Universe Classics line. But I'm really happy to have these in my collection as well. And then, of course, before we go, I'll bring out my custom light blue Superman that I've made just for like a little bit of comparison. And of course, you can also, put that Starro Parasite, on whatever figure you'd like. But it looks pretty cool on the Superman. But anyways, guys, all in all, pretty awesome addition to the collection. Can't wait to get the rest in my hands so we could build that Starro. And also, we're not sure what the other figures are going to be that are going to be after Superwoman, but we'll, go ahead and find out. But anyways, guys, you guys keep hunting out there, keep collecting, keep customizing, and I will see you on the next one.